Hello, I am Reverend Wilma Wake, and I'm delighted to be here with you this morning through Deborah's tree and to wish you a happy Easter. This is not, of course, Easter Sunday, but it is the first Wednesday evening after Easter. I'm going to open the Word for us as we begin this evening, and I'd like to offer you a reflection about Easter, not just the week after Easter, but the days after Easter. Easter is actually a season in the Christian tradition rather than just a day. And it's through the many days after Easter that we have an opportunity to absorb its meaning for us. And I invite you to reflect today on what Easter means for you beyond the superficial parts of Easter and perhaps the most fun parts of Easter, family gatherings and kids getting Easter baskets and all of the playful and joyful parts of the day, and also remembering the worship that is so important to so many of us celebrating the resurrection. One of the things that I celebrated this Easter season is my birthday. My birthday usually comes somewhere close to Easter, and this year I turned 75. Quite amazing it is to suddenly realize I'm 3/4 of a century alive on the earth. And it got me to thinking, what have all these Easters been like for me? This is Easter number 75. And I think about the many periods of time I've been through. When I was young, I was born into a fairly fundamentalist Baptist family in southern Illinois. And I grew up with some pretty fundamental understandings of Christianity. One of them being it was very important to be baptized if we were to be saved and allowed into heaven. And in the Baptist church, babies were not baptized. You had to be old enough to want to be baptized and to accept the baptism. I think then it was about age 10. And that's the age I decided I absolutely wanted to be baptized because I wanted to make sure I made it into heaven. And it was quite a big event back then. They had baptismal fonts generally in the front of the church, and the baptism was of being dunked backwards into the water. And I felt so relieved because I felt, thank goodness now I was going to make it into heaven. No matter what happened, I was baptized and I was saved. And I've been so happy in my older adult life to discover Swedenborg and a very different understanding of Christianity and resurrection and salvation. And I understand it now as such a beautiful part of our life and our existence. This Easter, I worshiped in our Portland new church in Portland, Maine. And one of the songs we sang was one of my very favorites, called In the Bulb There Is a Flower. And you perhaps are familiar with it. The words are so beautiful, and they're reminding us that no matter how things may look superficially, there is a much deeper understanding. For example, we might look at a bulb, a flower bulb, and just see a bulb. But the way God looks at this bulb is that inside there's a flower about to bloom. And some of the words in this song that I really love, in our end is our beginning. In our time, eternity. In our doubt, there is believing. Excuse me a moment. Now I find the words on the screen. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. The way this is especially meaningful to me this year is in looking at what's going on in the Ukraine and seeing such a brave, beautiful people who are defending their land to the death in many cases, and how important it is to them to stand up to the evil that is invading their country. And it makes me think of this hymn, that no matter what we see on the surface, and we see a lot of fighting and a lot of destruction, that inside is something deeper that right now only God can fully see, but it's going to bloom, and it is going to bring about our understanding of the divine on the earth. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Divine, help us always to look beyond the surface in ourselves and in the world. Help us always to understand that in the bud there is a flower. In death there is resurrection. That you are often present very, very deeply inside of us and inside of our world. And help us always to look beyond the surface until we can see you, often buried deep inside and ready to bloom. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me for this worship this morning, and I hope you continue to celebrate the days of Easter that lie ahead. Blessings to you.